Hi there. So this is going to be an experiment and I'm setting it up for next season. And I guess the background would be there's been a really popular video that I keep seeing on my feed from a channel called Back to Reality, and they set up a Ruth Stout style no-dig potato garden and got a fairly decent yield out of it. And I posted a comment on that video saying I think it would result in a lot of vole damage to the potatoes based on my own experience. And then I kind of thought about it a lot and I was like, well, I'm not even sure if that's true because I haven't actually done it. So what I've decided to do is actually do it. So I am mulching an area, and this is, yeah, I guess we can see the entire thing here. This is about, the area is approximately 13 by 50, maybe a little bit bigger than that. And I am not actually using it strictly Ruth Stout style because I am mulching with what I would call green chop rather than mulch hay, spoiled hay, which is what Ruth Stout advocates. And I'm just doing that because that's what I have. I don't see the need to go out and find a source of spoiled hay when I have plenty of excess pasture that I can cut and mulch with, and that's what I typically use to mulch my potatoes anyway. And I have about half of it from where the landscape fabric is there to about the center of it. It is just the green chop. And then from about midway over to the edge, I actually have a layer of autumn leaves that I've put down that I collected at my parents', and so everyone puts out their leaves, and so I've grabbed tons and tons of bags of leaves because I normally do make leaf mold and stuff. So I have a thin layer of autumn leaves, put down, and then I'm going to, top it off. I'm almost done, basically. I just have these 4 more piles of grass mulch to lay, and I cut this maybe a week and a half ago, but it's been wet. This is not hay. And so it probably has leached a little bit, but you can still see there's a lot of sort of still alive material in there, orchard grass and whatnot, but it's very, and this is like goldenrod stems. So it's kind of what I would call crappy mulch green chop, but it's not hay because it's never really dried down, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, this is what it's going to be, and I'm interested to compare and contrast this Ruth Stout style system with kind of the system I've been using in my potato plot for the last couple of years. So like this area is going to be next year's potato plot, main potato plot. It's going to be immediately adjacent to this Ruth Stout garden. And so what I typically do, what I did here was I plow the potato plot and then I plant the potatoes in trenches, and then I hill to the soil level. Basically I hill to grade for the first hilling, and then I hill up slightly to mound the rows for the second hilling, and then I mulch. Okay, and so that's what you see here. Is you can see a slight there's a sort of a slight mound going down the row, and then it's mulched. And what ends up happening is the top of the row doesn't really get mulched, and so there's sort of this bare strip in the middle. And I'm wondering if that actually increases and concentrates my vole damage. But if you look, you can kind of see oftentimes the signs of where voles have been traveling along sort of this bare strip, which is like all covered in potato canopy while the potatoes are alive. So I'm just wondering if maybe the Ruth Stout system might actually decrease vole damage. And so I don't want to be talking out of my butt and saying, oh, you can't do that here because of voles, when I haven't tested it. So we're going to test it. So this is like I said, a 13 or so by 50 foot plot, and I think I can get about 3 or 4 rows of potatoes. I'll have to make that decision. And this looks like a lot of leaves, but it's actually a pretty thin layer. Those will pack down very thinly once I get the grass mulched on top. And yeah, so I mean, I can't tell you how the potatoes will grow until next season, so this is going to be about a year in the making. But I'm very curious. And so what my plan is to have replications in here to kind of really get a apples to apples comparison, and have, like, you know, 10 foot of a variety in the Ruth Stout plot, and then 10 foot of the same variety over here in the using my normal system with the hilling and mulching. And then, you know, we can dig them next fall and kind of get a hopefully good comparison of the two systems. Because that's one thing I feel like the Back to Reality video doesn't show you, is it's like, well, look at how all these potatoes that we dug, but it's kind of like, well, what would have happened if you just tilled and planted, you know, like more traditionally. So I kind of think this will answer that question. And I think both will do well, because my normal system does well. And I think obviously you can grow potatoes using the Ruth Stout system. I am curious about relative damage. I'm curious also about, you know, disease and insect response to this system, and ease of maintenance. That's also an interesting question, but it's mainly yield that I'm curious about, and vole damage. And so I feel like if we can replicate the two systems side by side, that'll be an interesting answer to that question. But we're gonna have to wait a year to find that out. So I'm just gonna finish mulching these, and then it'll just be waiting till spring to plant potatoes in here. Before I close, I also wanted to mention that Troll Forge did kind of a interesting side-by-side comparison of the Back to Eden system and sort of the Ruth Stout system, and he was also somewhat, I think, inspired by the Back to Reality video, and I think he mentioned that in the video. So I wanted to put a shout out, and I'll just put a card up here for Troll Forge's video. I guess one thing else that I ought to mention real quick. So this is like 13 by 50, so it's like 650 square feet, right? If my math is right. But the amount of pasture that I had to mow and rake to mulch this to this level was about 90 by 100 square, which is, you know, pretty close to 10,000 square feet. So it takes a lot of land to produce the biomass for, like, these biomass mulching systems, you know, like if you're doing Back to Eden or Ruth Stout, you know, and you're using spoiled hay, and it's, you know, theoretically a, you know, sustainable system, but it's like that biomass comes from somewhere, so you're taking that carbon and transporting it. So that's, I mean, that's not a bad thing, but it's also something that, you know, like if everybody started doing this, then there wouldn't be enough hay to go around, you know what I mean? So if this becomes a popular system of gardening, then we also have to start thinking about how do we produce this biomass? You know, what crops can we grow to produce large amounts of biomass on a smaller footprint, you know? So, and like kind of perennially. So that's an interesting question, and I don't know the answer to that, but it's something to think about. I hope some of you guys are interested in this trial and will follow along with me next year to see how it goes. So thanks a lot for watching.